Well, hello and welcome to the Boss Body Podcast. Sarah Haas here, and this is, I think, episode 22 of the podcast, which to me is just amazing because I started this podcast just a few months ago and the time has flown, and it just seems crazy to me that I've recorded already 22 episodes. But if you have been with me from the beginning, thank you so much for being here. And if you're new, I am so glad you're here too. Please feel free to go back and browse the earlier episodes. There's so much good stuff in there. I just know you're going to find some that you really like. And also, if there is burning questions that you have or something that you want to learn about and you want to hear me talk about it, hit me up. I am all ears. You can email me, you can message me through my website, you can get me on social media. All the information's in the show notes. So be sure to get in touch because I want to give you what you want. So today I want to talk about this concept you may have heard about called intuitive eating. It's sort of a trendy, new-ish fad. At least they're calling it new. And it's kind of funny to me because intuitive eating has been around since the beginning of human beings. And basically what it means is eating mindfully. It means eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're full. But we have gotten so far away from that this is almost like a new concept to us. And you'll see this being taught out there online and, lots of books written about it and all of that. And I don't necessarily call my method intuitive eating, but that's exactly what it is. Because diets, let's just face it, diets don't work. So you can restrict, you can count calories, you can have smaller portions, yada, yada, yada. In the end, you end up hungry. You can't sustain hunger and you end up overeating. And that's the dieting cycle. That's why we're losing and gaining and losing and gaining. Because when your body doesn't have enough calories, your brain goes into alarm mode, like flashing red light, emergency, emergency. We've got to have food. And when that happens, you aren't in control anymore. You cannot override your brain's need for food. So it's going to drive you to eat, and usually it drives you to overeat. So you have kind of a binge. Then afterwards you feel guilty and you feel like you failed and you resolve to, quote, do better tomorrow, which means more restrictive eating the next day, which leads you to another binge. So obviously we know that doesn't work. And so what we really want to do, and this is what I teach my clients to do all the time, is to tap into your body's natural, innate hunger cues. Because our body is the smartest, most complicated, amazing machine that's ever existed. And it knows exactly what it needs to survive. But we have become so disconnected from our body's messages. Think about this. Animals in the wild never overeat. They're not overweight. You don't ever see like an overweight cougar, because they eat when they're hungry and they stop when they're full. They know what to eat. They know when to eat. They know how much to eat. Also, babies. Think about looking at little babies. If you've ever had a toddler, you know that you cannot make them eat if they don't want to. Babies cry when they're hungry. You give them food, then they push it away when they're done. Sometimes they drink a whole bottle. Sometimes they want a half. Sometimes a toddler, wants a whole big plate of chicken or, grapes, whatever it is. And then sometimes they're like, I just want a couple bites, because they're, without even thinking about it. This is just primal. This is our internal wisdom around food. We know exactly what we need. And so the problem is we have gotten so far away from that. Because of dieting and restricting. And like I said before, just that constant, restricting and then binging and restricting and then binging. And the other thing is our food supply is so out of whack, with fast food and convenience foods and so much sugar and processed foods. All those are addictive. The food industry has figured out that the more sugar, the more fat, the more salt you put in it, the better it tastes, and the more you're going to keep coming back to it. And so that interferes with our body's natural signals, because your body's always going to say, yes, I want more. Yes, I want more. And so we've kind of gotten, our signals are all out of whack. The other thing that I see so much is that we're working so hard and we are so stressed, and we're just going a million miles an hour all day long. And I see people who just forget to eat. They just work all day and come to the end of the day, and suddenly they get home and they are starving because they've just been in the zone. They've just been focusing on getting it done all day long. They haven't had any water. They haven't had any food. So they're totally numbed out from their body's cues, their body's signals, because they've just gotten so used to doing that day after day after day. So all these things combined have caused us to really be out of touch and disconnected from our bodies. And eating intuitively isn't going to come naturally to us at this point. So it really takes taking a step back and becoming mindful again, so that we know what our body needs. The other thing is, if we are using foods to deal with negative emotions, our body's going to signal, I want food. If that has been something that you have been doing over and over again throughout your life, it's kind of a default mechanism in your brain. Your brain starts to have an uncomfortable emotion, and it triggers, eat, because that's always worked for me in the past. So that's your go-to. That's your default. So there are a lot of things that are interfering. But we do need to come back to this simplicity. We don't need an overwhelming diet. We don't need a whole list of foods, of do's and don'ts. We don't need to memorize how many calories are in every single thing, because our body really will tell us how much and what it needs. And that amount is different for every person, for different days of the week, for different stages of your life. If you're highly active, you're going to need more food. If you're pregnant, you're going to have completely different dietary needs than a teenager or someone who's just gone through menopause. And so diets cannot be a one size fits all. Men have different nutritional needs than women. So when someone publishes a diet and says, this is the end all be all, this works for everyone across the board. Well, that is not true, because literally day to day, your needs are going to be different. If you are very active one day, you're probably going to be hungry into the next day because your body has burned calories and you need some extra. And so we've got to deal with some of these underlying issues, and then we'll be able to tap in to our body's natural messages. The first thing that we need to do when we're trying to get back to basics is very simple. Take time throughout your day to check in with your body. How am I feeling right now? What is going on with me? Am I thirsty? Do I need something to drink? Am I hungry? Do I need to eat? While you're eating, be mindful, not driving in a car, not working through a lunch meeting, not staring at your computer, actually focusing on your meal and listening to your body and stopping when you're satisfied. Because if you don't start tuning in, you're never going to create that connection so that you know what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat. And then there's also going to have to be some work done around getting rid of sugar cravings and getting rid of cravings for the fast foods and junk foods that we've gotten so addicted to. Because if you just sit down and listen to what your body asks you for and you've been eating a lot of those things, your body's definitely going to say, oh, give me some more of that. And that's not actually what your body needs. It's just the way that it's been reprogrammed over time with, all these crazy unhealthy options. So there's going to be some work on the front end and also with dealing with emotional issues, because it is highly acceptable in our culture today to eat your feelings. If you just had a breakup and your girlfriend says, oh, I'll be over with some Ben and Jerry's, it's just like common. Or drinking wine, too much wine, that's our go-to. And so you got to do some of the deeper work. You've got to figure out, how are my emotions connected to my eating? Because you need to separate the two, which is a really big deal. It's really hard. And that is something that I work extensively on with my clients, because you need help with that. You've been doing this for a long time. You need an outside person to point out what's going on and to help you work through that. So working with a coach or a therapist is going to be really helpful. And once you have done this, once you've learned how to slow down, tune into your body's cues, you're not having crazy cravings for convenience foods and junk foods and sugar, and you're not using food to deal with your emotions, boom, it's pretty much on autopilot, because you crave the healthy stuff. I eat salads every day, and when I run out of greens, I can only go for a day or so, and my body is like screaming for greens. So people don't believe me sometimes that I crave salad, but I really do. So it works. I crave movement because I've gotten used to exercising. And people make fun of me sometimes because I'll leave, a little bit of food on my plate. If I am eating a piece of fruit and I don't want all of it, I'll just stop when I'm full. And people say, why didn't you finish it? Well, because I was satisfied. I don't even really think about it. And you can do this like 100%. This is within you. You were like this when you were a baby, and we can get you back to this. The first step is just to start listening. Listen to your body. It will tell you what it needs. It will give you messages, but you have to listen. All right. That's all I have for you today. Thanks so much for being here, and I will see you next time.